This is going to be the most important video that I have ever made, and honestly probably ever will make. Before anything else, I think I need to sit down and I need to clarify exactly why I'm here and why I believe in Bitcoin. Now, if you don't know me, I'm Nicki. I'm 19 years old. I study computer science and I got into Bitcoin around August of 2025. So I think honesty really does matter here. I don't have a hardship story. I am not fighting to survive, and I have lived a very, very privileged life thanks to my parents, and I am genuinely just so grateful to them for that. Essentially, nothing bad has ever happened to me that pushed me toward Bitcoin. So this video isn't going to be about pain. It's not me sharing some kind of like sympathy story or anything. It's just about how I paid attention early and started being honest about the things that I was noticing. So I think probably the best way to do this is to just walk you through everything that was going on. So I moved to college around a week after I turned 18. I turned 18 in February of 2024, and just a week later, I moved to Australia for college. So this was really the first time that money had become visible to me, because before then I was living at home with my parents. I was in high school and I had worked my first job. By that time I was a barista at Starbucks. But because I was living at home, I was always really like taken care of. You know, my parents, they made sure that my brother and I never really had to worry about the financial burden. So again, I'm very grateful, and I know that like that is a privilege that a lot of people don't have. So I'm not trying to, like sound like a dog whistle or anything here, but I'm just being honest. Like moving to college was the first time that I really started noticing what money meant. So essentially, like prices had stopped being like background noise and they actually like became signals, right? Groceries had weights, rent had ratios, budgeting revealed how thin the margin really is, even when things were going well. I had a set amount that I could spend in a month, and if I had overspent on one thing, that meant I had to cut something else out. It was just learning how to be an adult. Now, when every month that margin was getting smaller and smaller, I, started to ask questions, and I'm someone who is on the more analytical side, so I didn't ignore that pattern. Systems that require, constant effort to just stay neutral aren't resilient. They're fragile. So that curiosity led me to not discovering because I knew what inflation was at the moment, but learning more about inflation. And finally, like seeing that, okay, these governments are doing this because they are trillions of dollars in debt. I think like right now the US government is in like $38.4 trillion of debt right now, which is absolutely crazy. Anyway, so around the same time, I think like later 2024, social media had started absolutely draining me. Now this was during the 2024 US presidential election cycle. All the campaigning was going on, and if you're American and you were also on social media around that time, you know exactly how draining it was. And that's not because it was like evil, it was just so noisy. Every single feed on every single app felt like optimized to pull me away from clarity. I would have fear on one side, fake certainty on the other side. Like narratives were collapsing. It was so much going on. And at the same time, everything had started to feel ingenuine. There was countless just AI generated slop on TikTok and X and Instagram. Or there were all these reels of people being like, okay, if you buy this course that I'm selling for like 200 American dollars, I can make you rich. This is how you invest in crypto. This is how you diversify your portfolio. Like it was so much going on all of the time. Everyone was trying to extract something from me: attention, belief, money, or it was just not even human. And I craved human connection more than anything else. So this is when I realized something that was so uncomfortable to sit with. A system that survives on noise doesn't want you calm. Bitcoin, by contrast, doesn't need my attention. It doesn't trend and it doesn't persuade. It just exists. This difference mattered more than I expected at the time. Now, I wasn't a Bitcoiner yet, so just keep that in mind. Anyway, so then I started asking questions. And you can, verify this with my dad. He'll be on the channel again on Sunday, so I'll try and get him to talk a bit more about this time in our lives. But I started to question systems out loud, and I felt this strange kind of like social friction, and it wasn't like hostility or anything. It was more so just discomfort. People didn't argue with me, they reassured, they deflected, and sometimes I was leaving conversations about money, about what was going on in the world, just wondering, like, am I being a cynical person, or am I missing something that's obvious, or like, am I turning into someone that I don't want to be? So that discomfort wasn't really coming from like negativity or anything. It just was coming from misalignment, right? Like I was 18, I was beginning to shape my own beliefs, the person that I wanted to be. And most people want reassurance that the things that they believe and the system they live in will keep working. I wanted to understand why it should keep working. And, Bitcoin is something that doesn't really offer you reassurance. It offers you rules. It offers you proof of work. So now I study computer science, and I study that because I am someone who is more on the analytical side. So when I finally studied Bitcoin at the protocol level properly, the rules, the incentives, the constraints, something clicked in my head. And I think more than anything, this was just clarity. Bitcoin doesn't ask you to believe in it. It asks you to verify. The supply is fixed, the issuance is predictable, the rules are enforced, and it's not promised. That's the biggest thing. You are not entitled to anything in Bitcoin. There's no admin, no override, no committee, nothing. Bitcoin tells the truth objectively, even when the truth is inconvenient. That mattered to me much more than narratives, price, or hype, or anything like that. I wanted truth, objective truth. So here, let's come back to the 2024 kind of like election drama that was going on. This was my first time voting because, again, I had just turned 18 in February of that year. And I wasn't feeling like emotional because it was very underwhelming. Honestly, I didn't expect perfection out of the cycle or anything because it's politics. Politics can never be perfect. But politics operates on a very short time horizon. Money doesn't. Bitcoin doesn't really care who wins, right? Red or blue, Bitcoin doesn't care. If anything, Bitcoin is orange. So it doesn't react to speeches or headlines or Donald Trump on Joe Rogan or Kamala Harris on Call Her Daddy, right? All of this research, all of this media that I was consuming, trying to make my decision and trying to get my head clear, Bitcoin didn't care about any of that. It continued to produce a block with the same rules, the same schedule. And that separation between money and state, that was exactly what I needed. That was like true sound system design. Now, CS student here, I like building things. I am fairly optimistic, I'd say, but I am also realistic. With AI accelerating with AI accelerating everything, career paths are so much less linear and stability isn't like guaranteed or anything. And that is worrying, yes, but it doesn't really scare me. It just reframes security. Security isn't a job title. I don't think there's any such thing as job security. If anything, security to me, it means optionality. Bitcoin is permissionless value, savings that don't really depend on your geography, your timeline, your employer, your institution, who you are, where you are, what you're doing. Bitcoin doesn't care about any of that. And this is just because I respect uncertainty that I started to respect Bitcoin. Then now like my parents don't really know this, but I started to explore crypto. I didn't buy any, but I had started to like read into it. I was watching YouTube videos, watching TikToks because I was like, hey, if Bitcoin is so great, what about crypto? But my parents are very Bitcoin, not crypto. So I kept it kind of on the hush hush. Most of it failed that same test. Again, CEOs, marketing teams, admin keys, flexible supply. Like it essentially was just another stock. It wasn't anything like Bitcoin. So it was just those same like trust assumptions repackaged under different names. Ethereum, Solana, XRP, your pick of the bunch. So that stood out kind of immediately because, again, the decentralization is something that I value out of Bitcoin probably the most. And most crypto is essentially a bet on people, not on computers. Bitcoin is a bet on computers. It's a bet on constraints, on code, on rules. It removes discretion entirely, and discretion, I think, is where systems tend to decay. Everything else today is literally expanding. With AI comes this era of just abundance with content, data, AI output, noise. Bitcoin is true scarcity, right? We're approaching the 20 millionth. Yeah, we're approaching the 20 millionth Bitcoin being mined. It's going to happen sometime in like March, I believe. So that means there's only 1 million Bitcoin left ever. And I think that's expected to be mined in the year 2140. Yeah, 2140 is, I think, when the last ever Bitcoin is going to be mined. So this fact doesn't really like make me emotional or anything. It kind of comforts me in a way. My goal of 0.1 BTC, I made a video on this last year talking about how 0.1 BTC might be all the Bitcoin that you'd ever need. It's not about wealth, it's about alignment. And I want the work that I do today, I want the content that I put out on this channel to carry forward honesty. So this is the part that I want to be explicit about. I'm making this video to ground myself, to say out loud what I actually believe in, to serve as a starting point if you are new to this channel or if you've been around since August, to reiterate why I'm here, before any of the opinions harden, before narratives start to form around me and what I'm doing. This is me setting a baseline for Orange Peel and for who I am, who Nicki is as a person. I want you guys to know how I think, what I value, what I'm optimizing for, so that when I talk about AI, Bitcoin, or money, you can trace everything back to the core thesis. I'm not here to chase trends. I'm not here to sell you a fantasy. I'm not here to pretend I have certainty, right? I'm not even here to try and convince you to buy Bitcoin or to use AI or anything. I'm simply here to document the process of thinking clearly in public and to show you that I practice what I preach. Now, this channel is built very much the same way that I approach Bitcoin. It's slow, transparent, and verifiable. If something is changing, I will say so. If I'm wrong, I'll show you, why I'm wrong. I'll go back and I'll correct myself. That is the ethos. I'm pushing all of these ideas forward because I think that a lot of people, especially in Gen Z, feel the same quiet confusion that I did before starting this channel. So it's just this sense of something about the system, something about the way things work isn't adding up, and I can't quite put my finger on what it is. So I really want this channel to be a place where we slow down, we ask better questions, and we choose systems that respect truth, objective truth, over comfort. So using AI to build optionality, using Bitcoin to protect time and effort, not really, as an escape from what's going on right now, but as a foundation for building our futures. To close things out, I am very grateful for my life. And I said in the beginning of this video, this was not going to be a sympathy story because I have not faced financial hardship. That is not what led me to Bitcoin. What led me to Bitcoin was asking questions, was starting to notice things and being like, wait, okay, this happens, but why? What if there's an alternative? So, I'm not someone who's angry or afraid about anything. I'm just choosing a system that tells the truth. Bitcoin doesn't promise me anything. It doesn't need to, right? I'm not entitled to anything from Bitcoin. It just gives me rules that don't change. And that is something solid that I can stand on while I build, while I try and figure out what I'm going to do in the future as my graduation date is coming in December of 2026. So again, I'm 19 years old. I don't want a lottery ticket or anything. I just want clarity, honesty, alignment even. And that is why I believe in Bitcoin. That is why this channel exists. That is why I'm staying curious, staying skeptical, and staying orange pilled. I'll see you on Sunday.